Welcome to Vessel Performance Optimization's webinar, Managing the Complexities of CII, How Advanced Technology Can Help, from our sponsors, Wärtsilä. Our guest speaker today is Kay Dausendschön, General Manager of Fleet Operations in Wärtsilä. Here is our host, Carl Jeffrey, from Digital Ship, to explain more.
Okay, so we're going to look today at how advanced digital technology can help manage the complexities of the Carbon Intensity Indicator, or CII. So you probably know by now CII is a measure of vessel performance. So by advanced digital technology, we're talking about better ways to gather, store, integrate, analyze, simulate data, give people what they need according to their role, put it all on a single platform. So why does vessel performance data benefit from advanced technology? So we're all learning there's so many elements of data which have a relationship with the vessel's performance. So on the immediate term, that's the route, the speed, the arrival time, and the charter requirements. And over the longer term, there's a hull degradation and the engine condition. And vessel performance decisions have to be made alongside other goals the company has, including the competitiveness of the whole ship, the return from the ship as an asset, the operational efficiency, the workload, and the costs. And different people in the company have different priorities. So if we've got really advanced digital technology, we can get better at gathering and storing and integrating and analyzing data. We can test out the decisions before we make them, see what they would happen if you follow them with simulations and analytics. We could have a single digital platform which everyone in the company can use, monitoring what's happening and making decisions with a view to the data that fits the priorities they have. And we can have automated notifications, so we can say that this vessel is a risk of going into a D or E band, and these are the biggest reasons why that was going to be. So we're going to hear today from Kay Dausendschön, who's General Manager of Fleet Operations at Wärtsilä Voyage, how this can be done, help with cloud-based analytics, AI and intelligent automation with a product they call their Fleet Optimisation Solutions. Kay is based in Hamburg. He's a former Program Director for Digital Solutions and Innovation with DNV. So as usual with our webinars, we're going to have a presentation for about 25 minutes, and there should be plenty of time for questions. You can put your questions in the Q&A box at any time, but we'll take them at the end. And I'd like to invite Kay to start his talk. Thanks.
Thank you, Carl, for the kind introduction. And I could actually say you said it all, so I don't have to do the webinar anymore. You summarized it quite well, and I hope everybody had already taken notes. So, but yeah, okay, jokes aside. Thank you very, very much for having me on this webinar. So, and I'm very much looking forward to the next 30 minutes, and also to your questions that you might have. Okay, let me share my screen. I hope you can see.
Yep, that's fine. Yep.
Yep. Okay. So today I would like to speak about CII, Carbon Intensity Indicator, and how we can tackle the challenges that come with that new regulation with technology. There's no shortage of people in the market who claim to help manage CII. But what does that actually mean, manage CII? First, CII is only a label of energy efficiency of the actual transport. It's not the ship, but it's the transport. So the transport with the vessel over the course of a year. That energy efficiency is determined by many factors. Some of them you can influence, some of them you cannot. Some of these factors are even conflicting. So in essence, managing CII means achieving a certain target energy efficiency at year end in the best possible way. Also, managing CII means managing inefficiencies. Of course, managing inefficiencies in the most immediate sense mostly means reducing fuel consumption. And the pressure to reduce fuel waste and increase efficiency in shipping has been on for quite a number of years. However, with the additional CII-related regulations from the IMO, shipping companies face an additional layer of complexity, needing to balance commercial, operational, and now also emissions-related considerations. In this webinar, I will not go too much into the details of the regulations themselves. I think that is already quite well known across the industry. But I'd rather like to show how digital technologies can help not only with dealing with these regulations from a compliance standpoint, but also with optimizing emissions management from a holistic perspective, rather than a standalone solution. First, I will speak about the more general benefits of digital technologies and how platforms can help to increase efficiency. And then in the second part of the webinar, I will very much focus on the specifics of CII. Right. Digital technologies, of course, have been around for quite a while. And even though the payback time looks promising, the actual implementation and effective use of digital technologies come with their own challenges. If we turn it around, an unsuccessful implementation of a digital strategy can eat up quite a lot of resources without bringing substantial value. One of the main problems that many face is that various digital products have been implemented over time, but they come from different suppliers, and often they function independently in separate data silos. For example, separate manual data reporting schemes coexist next to each other, one for EU MRV, one for other noon reporting, several logbooks, and so on and so on. While in parallel, an auto-logging data system or auto-logging system collects similar data from sensors in a different format. Integration between different supplier systems is of course possible. However, it can take up quite some effort, requiring coordination and maintenance, plus cybersecurity concerns have come to add further complexity. What we aim to do at Wärtsilä Voyage is to connect all of these systems and applications. That's what we mean when we speak about connecting the dots into one integrated platform where data is collected only once. Systems are linked to each other, creating synergies between these traditionally separate applications. As an example, we combine nautical charts, weather data, our routing algorithms, and we link it up to Actis navigation. Weather routing, shoreside commercial voyage planning are also connected then in this one system. Or, for example, noon reported data and auto-log data are combined to model vessel performance. And the same setup is also being used for hull fouling analysis or voyage benchmarking. And now here we further add also emissions management as one more dot to draw from the same data set, linking it up with other applications. Making the most of integration does not stop off the door of one stakeholder or one company. Easy sharing of data and systems improves the overall performance of all sides of ship transport, be it the owner, the manager, or operator or charterer. Especially with CII, this becomes apparent as, for example, the charterer's requirements are not necessarily the same as the owner's. In many cases, they are even conflicting. So a shared platform or shared data platform can do the first step, that is creating the necessary transparency and analysis to take better decisions. So in essence, the best possible basis for reducing inefficiencies with digital platforms is to use the same data across different processes and across different stakeholders. I said it before, so because we want to avoid providing yet another standalone solution for emissions management, we have added an emissions module into our Fleet Optimisation Solution platform, where the same data is being used for navigational purposes and vessel performance optimization, and now also for compliance. It is very much a scalable solution where you can plug in various pieces of hardware and software to make it scalable. You can go with the pure software deployed on board and on shore, or you can go as deep as taking high frequency data from the engine room. The common denominator is the cloud, the vessel models or digital twins, and the environment for the user. The compliance and reporting module bundles all compliance-related data and analytics, that is, all the various emissions reporting schemes such as MRV, DCS, but it also adds charter party as a compliance element. And now we also embed CII here. One of our main goals is to provide a scalable yet flexible solution that can be deployed easily across a diverse fleet of different types of vessels with different equipment on board. Depending on the circumstances of each vessel, is it owned, chartered, Wärtsilä equipment on board or not, other suppliers on board, there are different levels of integration that can be chosen, from a purely software-based solution to a more integrated solution where we connect the data from different machinery and sensors. It's important that the user environment is always the same, regardless of the level of integration chosen, and that we don't only have to rely on reported data, but we can also utilize high-frequency data to do adequate vessel performance modeling. On the ship, this means that in our standard setup, we provide a semi-automated noon reporting solution called SmartLog, which pre-fills part of the data automatically from existing shipboard equipment and therefore increases data quality and reduces reporting workload. At the same time, SmartLog can be used as an IMO DCS and an MRV, EU MRV compliant reporting tool, and therefore avoiding the need for double reporting. Moreover, by using the same data that later will be submitted to the verifier, we ensure that consistency between the preliminary CII rating calculated in our system and the rating which will later be verified by the verifier. On shore, our integrated approach means that emissions management is not an isolated task, but it can be done in combination with other equally important tasks, such as charter party analysis, commercial voyage planning, and so on, which we all provide in the same dashboard based on the same data. So how does it look in practice? And what can we do beyond simple CII rating calculations by making use of data modeling? The emissions module, which we added into our fleet optimization platform, comprises three main functions. First, on the most basic level, we create real-time visibility of the different carbon intensity ratings, including CII, AER, with the associated Poseidon principles, climate alignment, as well as the energy efficiency operational indicator, EEOI. Visibility. As a second step, we make use of high-frequency data and vessel performance modeling so that our system provides insights on the main factors that are impacting each vessel's carbon intensity. And last, and maybe most importantly, we provide decision support for targeted actions for the vessel to stay compliant, both in short term and in long term. Going forward, I'd like to illustrate how the emissions module of our shoreside FOSS dashboard can help you with your emissions management. For each of the three main functions, visibility, insights, and optimization, I will demonstrate how you would be able to use our tools to help solving some standard questions you may face in regard to emissions. For that purpose, you will see some small snippets of the emissions module of our FOSS dashboard. So, as a first step, we want to look at the big picture of the fleet without having to aggregate and update the latest emissions data manually. The question I'll ask myself may be, how does the fleet composition in terms of CII ratings look like today? And how will it look like in 2026 if no measures are being taken to improve the carbon intensity? And obviously, the operations continue in a similar manner. The graphics show data from a European tanker owner-operator. How many vessels fall into each rating category for the year, extrapolated until 2026. This specific company has already taken quite some actions to improve their vessel's carbon intensities, as they need this kind of data for their ESG reporting. Now we can pinpoint the vessels that are in risk of falling down to a D or an E rating and ask the same question: what year will it become non-compliant if no action is being taken? The projected rating here is used excuse me. The projected rating here is based on the most up-to-date year-to-date preliminary rating, meaning it's derived from the reported data from January this year until the present day. Next, we can have a look at the vessel that is in risk of becoming non-compliant already within the ongoing year. We can look at the year-to-date trend here on a monthly basis, but it can also be on a more granular level. Here we see that while the vessel is currently in a D rating, she's quite close to the rating boundary, and we have, excuse me, we have good chances to help her improve into a C rating, or help her improve to a C rating if we take the right actions. We are also extending our notifications options so that the users can be notified when the rating boundaries are being crossed, instead of having to monitor the dashboard on a continuous basis. So far, we have simply provided a dashboard that handles emissions data automatically and presents it in a meaningful way. As a next step, I'd like to demonstrate how vessel performance modeling can help in providing further insights. In order to understand what factors are impacting the vessel emissions the most, we need to understand exactly how the vessel behaves in different conditions. For example, how different weather conditions and drafts affect the vessel's consumption, or to what extent the current degree of hull fouling contributes to the vessel's consumption or emissions. Before, I mentioned that we do not only collect reported data, but we also collect high-frequency data and combine all together with external data sources and information, for example, weather data. Here we make use of the vessel performance modeling based on these different data inputs to assess which one are the biggest performance, which one are the biggest contributing factors to performance impacting the vessel's carbon intensity rating. In the example shown, we, for example, see that performance deterioration or hull fouling has a significant impact on the vessel's emissions. Here it is 9%. Therefore, we know that scheduling a hull cleaning rather sooner than later may not only reduce the fuel costs, but it will most probably also make a difference for this vessel to move over to a compliant C rating within the year. I mentioned earlier that in our fleet optimization platform, we use the same data to be processed for different applications, which sometimes are interconnected. One example we see here is that we can use our analysis of the vessel's performance tracking module and link it to assess its impact on the carbon intensity. In this case, 90% of the emissions are due to the impact of hull fouling above the set benchmark. So as a vessel manager, I now know that this is something I can have really an impact on, or I can change. Other factors that can negatively impact the rating may be high speed instructions, weather, or idling periods. These factors are more dependent on the operator's instructions, weather routing, or vessel employment decisions made by the chartering department. Of course, depending on if I'm the commercial operator of the ship as well or not, the angles from which I can impact the vessel's carbon intensity will differ. This may play an important role going forward if a deterioration of the CII rating needs to be attributed to operational or technical factors, meaning if the responsibility lies mainly with the charterer or with the owner. Now that we understand what the main impacting factors on the vessel's carbon intensity are, we can move on to the third step and take targeted actions to ensure compliance. So here I'll discuss the three scenarios. I'll discuss three scenarios. In the first scenario, we go back to the previous example where we realize that one of our fleet's vessels is in risk of ending up with a non-compliant D rating this year. But it is relatively close to the C rating boundary already. So what options do I have to improve my vessel's current non-compliant D rating to compliant C rating until the end of year? The system is able to calculate the required average speed for the remainder of the year so that the vessel's carbon intensity will be decreased to just meet the C rating trajectory. However, the carbon intensity also depends on the changing vessel performance, as we have seen, for example, due to hull fouling, and it also depends on the distance sailed. In the compliance calculator, we are able to play with these inputs. For example, in this case, if we are scheduling a hull cleaning from which we expect a 3% performance improvement, the system will calculate how these will impact the required remaining average speed that can be instructed, while ensuring that the vessel is going to meet the C rating trajectory until the end of year. Other options include increasing or decreasing vessel employment in terms of sailing days or connecting miles. In the second scenario, we go into more immediate voyage planning, where we can use our shoreside voyage planner to simulate the various options for upcoming voyages. What will be the estimated CII for the planned voyage? And what will be the impact on the vessel's year-to-date rating? With our web voyage planner, the commercial operator can simulate different scenarios considering commercial factors such as time charter equivalent, scheduling options, weather forecast, vessel performance, and now also the voyage plan's impact on the emissions rating. In the last example, we look into long-term planning of the vessel's environmental compliance. In this scenario, we know that we have a dry docking opportunity next year, but we do not know exactly how, if retrofitting the vessel with a decarbonization technology will have a significant impact on extending the vessel's compliance lifespan, which in turn will also depend on the instructed speeds in the future, of course. We may even need to decide on a multi-year charter party speed consumption guarantee that should not jeopardize the vessel's CII compliance due to the charterer's speed instructions. So the question we may ask ourselves here is, if we use the dry docking opportunity next year to retrofit with energy profile, until what year can I guarantee the current CP speed, which is 13 knots? And how will it affect this, the vessel's financing? Energy profile, by the way, is an energy saving cap from Wärtsilä Marine Power, fitted to the propeller, from which we can expect fuel savings of roughly 1 to 2%. In the FOSS emissions module, the user is able to simulate various such scenarios to make the best decisions. Here we can input the expected performance improvement from the retrofit we consider for the dry docking opportunity in 2023 and see what impact it will have on the maximum allowed average speed to still meet the C rating trajectory, assuming the latest operational patterns, of course. In the latest column, in the columns you see here on the left, you see the vessel's current year-to-date carbon intensity and what rating it will correspond to in the future years. Next to it, you see the required CII to meet the C rating trajectory midpoint. So this calculator will help you when planning your vessel's years ahead. considering retrofitting performance improving technologies and their impact on the required operational speed instruction to stay compliant. The same calculation is being done in respect to AER and staying sorry, below the trajectory at given speeds. So the impact on vessel financing can also be taken into account. Of course, there's only so much a tool alone can help, especially when it comes to making decisions with significant long-term impact on the vessel's commercial value. Therefore, for a more in-depth assessment, we recommend to work together with our decarbonization experts from Wärtsilä Marine Power on a consultancy basis. They can then assess the most suitable retrofit options and their impact for this very specific vessel in much, much more detail. Okay, to wrap it all up, I hope I was able to demonstrate our three-layer approach on emissions management itself, where we create visibility of fleet emissions, provide insights into what factors impact the emissions ratings of each ship, and provide decision support to take targeted actions to optimize the vessel's emissions. All of this is not done in isolation in just another CII tool, but it's part of an integrated platform where different stakeholders, both on the ship and ashore, work together, relying on the same data set for fleet operations. Last but not least, besides the digital solution, my colleagues here are also happy to provide their expertise with in-depth consultancy services on decarbonization strategies. Thank you very, very much. I will be here for another 30 minutes to hopefully answer all of your questions.
Wow, well, thank you very much, Kai. And if you just like to stop screen sharing, we can see your face a lot larger. And yeah, so we're in the quick Q&A stage. I've got a big list of questions myself, but it'd be nicer to have one from the audience. I mean, the first question that comes to mind is kind of like a dream. This is exactly what a ship owner will want as you planned it. But how real are we? Have you done this for any ship owner yet? Or do you want to give any thoughts on where this actually is in terms of is anybody using it in the way you just showed?
Yeah, there are the first companies rolling it out or having already rolled it out, using it in practice. So, of course, as we all know, I mean, the regulations only kick in next year, but many of the owners are already, let's say, getting ready beyond the pure reporting, which has been in place for quite a while, and test out different scenarios, what might happen if they make changes to their vessels, to their fleet, if they make changes to their operations. So yes, this is already real. It's already being used in practice, and we are in close collaboration with several owners and discussing several options. What can be done to affect the CII rating positively.
Wow. And then on the other end of it, where the data comes from, I mean, you must have a model of the Energo, Profin, and every other energy saving device, but I guess you've gathered that, and that's what Wärtsilä does. So you get access to all of these models as well.
Yeah, exactly. So these are solutions from our portfolio, and that's actually the advantage of being part of such a large company that actually provides solutions really from the propulsion system and the engine room up to really solutions that are used for commercial voyage planning. So yes, we have lots of data of these technologies that improve the energy efficiency. Yes.
Okay, so we have a question from Fotis Vutori, who I think is from Prevention at Sea. It's a service company in Cyprus. He's asking about the correction factors with the CII rating, but I think these are all still changing. Well, I guess you can put correction factor into the software quite easily once you know what it is, isn't it?
Yes, of course. I mean, as we all know, this is not CII is still being molded. So without putting too much of my personal opinion here, I think it's not perfect, but yeah, of course, correction factors are being taken care of. Yeah, that's part of the solution.
Oh, very good. So we've got a question here from a client, but it's a slightly smelly question. So Josinho de Mello, who LinkedIn says is technical manager at Lino, Kaon Kaisha. He says he's using the fleet optimization software, but when is your emission module going to be rolled out fully? I get the impression this software is evolving the whole time, isn't it? Because it's cloud-based. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. So the solution is, or this is was introduced during SMM, so in September. So we are in the rollout phase. So if you're already a customer of Fleet Optimization Solution, so get in touch. We can make that available for you. As with pretty much every software as a service solution, it's never finished. It will always, like any application, will always evolve, will always be made better. Yeah, if you want to try it, just get in touch with us. So.
And Josino is also asking about correction factors for biofuel, but this is also sort of work in progress on the.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to give any comment about that. I suppose you could, because all this stuff gets involved in the software when it's ready, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah. Correct.
Oh, so Garnier Busahai, specialist marine projects shipping in Abu Dhabi. I haven't read this question yet. We're using tank sounding for EU monitoring, reporting, verification as it's voyage based. I guess that's the levels in the fuel tank, I suppose, and monthly reports for the IMO digital data collection system.
DTS reporting, yes.
Yeah. On the regulatory side, is there any regulation stipulating we have to use a sole source for our MRV, IMO, DCS, and CII reporting? I don't know about. I guess it might be outside your expertise. I don't know if you know about data regulations for collecting.
So I mean, I don't know whether I really understand the question correctly, but I mean, so the idea is you do your reporting only once, right? You do your you collect your data, you fill in your reports, and you submit that to the verifiers for DCS, for MRV, and that data, the DCS data, is basically also the data that is used for CII calculations. So we basically just take the same data for the calculation of the official CII, the official CII. So, but of course, if you go to the future, there's a certain component of modeling involved. So, and that is, so to say, blended. So we have the official part of the past, and we blend that with modeling to make the projections for the future.
Yeah,
but,
I don't. Oh.
So yeah, I mean, maybe the question was, can I use my existing DCS reporting in order to use the tool? At the moment, we rely on our own reporting. In the future, you can also use third-party, let's say, collected data for the system.
Yeah, the regulations don't specify how you collect the data. They just say you must collect the data, as far as I understand it. Anyway, I think he's asking about whether the data needs to come from for the regulatory reasons.
I mean, but there's verification. So I mean, if you do use DCS reporting, and that's okay, so you should be fine. Yeah.
Okay. So a question from Tylo Cybica. He's asking, does any components of this need flag approval? I suppose they don't see why they would need flag approval, do they?
No, they don't. They don't.
Oh, okay. So we go to Son Nguyen. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's asking about weather factors in the CII projecting. I guess if you're simulating what the emissions are going to be, you need to know roughly what the weathers are going to be, but maybe it's not that big a factor over the course of a year, is it? Or is that...
Yeah, I mean that's a very very good question. I think so, especially if you for example, if you want to simulate voyages that happen in the future. Let me answer the question a bit differently. So there's actually three components. I mean, there's the weather factors that need to be incorporated into the CII calculations as such. So that's one thing. And then if you look at the future, so if you want to have a prediction of your CII rating, you need to do obviously something with the weather. So there can be, I don't know, a voyage that you want to simulate in the next couple of months. So what kind of weather data you use there? So, and what our approach is that we use statistical information on weather.
Well, it's an interesting question from Ilya Maslov. So he or she is asking about if you've got multiple data sources, how do you check the consistency between them? I just sorry in that we always get the biggest questions in these webinars about data collection. I think it must be by far the biggest challenge that shipping companies are having. But so if you've got a manual electronic logbook that doesn't agree with the flow meters, how does your model handle that? I suppose it's something you have to figure out, is it?
Yeah, that is also a very, very good question. So with respect to CII as such, it's not such a huge problem at the moment, or it's not a huge problem because, I mean, CII is put on a common denominator, DCS. So if you do, as I said, if you do your DCS reporting, you put CII, you get your CII, and that is also how we calculate it, because it needs to be close to the official one. So, and then you have all the other elements of performance management. And here you have, of course, a bit more flexibility to use different data sources. So, for example, you want to create a performance model for two ships. So one ship uses only reported data. The second ship uses, I don't know, has flow meter data. I don't know, or other sensors. So, and that is the essence of our solution. So that for each, so to say, each stream of data, we are able to use the same system. So if you only use reported data, of course, the consumption model will be trained and so on, and it will deliver a result. If you have flow meter data, the overall quality of the system improves. So the end product may look the same, but the quality of the data is improved. But I think the colleague is also referring to another point is, and Carl, we talked about it before, it's like data quality is an inconsistency of data sets is one of the biggest problems of the industry. Data sets, especially high frequency data sets, there are no two absolutely similar data sets coming from two vessels. Even if it's sister vessels with the same systems, the tags might be named differently. It's not the same tags. The number of tags on the different ships, and of course, that's a tremendous problem, because then it always becomes a project to get that to a common denominator.
Yeah, and it's exactly what your software is good at, or you can train it to be good at, I guess. If you just have to put lots of
the approach we do is, so we have, let's say, we look at it from the end. So the end product is supposed to provide value to the customer. That end product has a certain requirement of data. So then we look, what's the minimum data set that I need in order to provide that value? So then it gets connected. So I'm not saying that let's say if you have a vessel that is where you collect 4,000 data tags from all over the place, I'm not saying that our solution is able to use all of these 4,000 tags. No, certainly not. So, but we make sure that the end solution works, and then we use a minimum set of data that is available from each vessel.
Yeah, that's very good. We don't have any questions on the board now, but I'm just the whole charter question, I think, because this is there's two angles. One you mentioned, so the charter is saying, can I do a ship at this speed? And you've got to see if that keeps you in the right band. And the other side of it is the charterers who want to reduce their own emissions and want to know what's possible. And I think you've thought about this maybe more than anybody else we've seen about how this can be done digitally. Do you want to share some thoughts on how companies can work better with charterers to give them what they want, whether it's a fast ship or a low emitting ship, or probably both at the same time, I expect?
Yeah, I think the key to this is you basically end up in a power play, so to say, or a negotiation situation between the owner and the charterer. And what we're trying to do here is we level the playing field. So let's say if you're an owner and you use our solution, we equip you with the right tools to make the right decision. So, and that means, for example, okay, if you want to end up here, these are your options. This is what you can do. So be it either operating at a certain speed, and if you have that information, that is something you can take into that negotiation. Or it is, you need to make some structural changes, for example. So, and then you have a bit more leeway, a bit more flexibility also in your negotiations.
Well, the other half of this is this net zero pathway. So every big company in the world is being told to show it's on a net zero pathway, and this is gradually filtering down into shipping. So they're asking companies, what can you do to help me on my net zero pathway? And it's such a big open-ended question. It's quite hard for shipping companies to answer, but perhaps with tools like this, they can actually answer it. Perhaps they can even show the charterer these decision models themselves and let them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, yeah, as I said, it's very much about leveling the playing field and providing as much information or useful information as possible to take a decision.
Yeah. So how do companies get moving on this then? Do they have to use everything all at once, or can they use parts of it, or is it something you're saying?
No, it's very much a modular. It's very much a modular system. So you don't have to use everything in order to make this to work. So in the most simple form, when we talk about CII, so there's this transparency element to it, so that you get transparency on where you are year to date or in the past, and so make a simple projection to it. So if that's your interest, so that can be used in isolation. So, but if you're, say, you want to do scenario planning and so on, and you want to, I don't know, apply different technology, fuel saving devices and so on, and you want to see how that scenario would play out in the future, so that's another layer on top. So it's pretty much more like a menu card you can pick and choose from.
Wow, there's a question here from Yoshio Otagaki. He's asking about international data standards. I mean, in a lot of these carbon discussions, because it seems like the discussion can go in one direction where everyone says everyone's got to be written down and prescriptive and regulated, but then another discussion that says, well, at the end of the day, it's two adults agreeing with each other about what they're doing and whether it's good enough. So I'm not personally in favor of more and more data standards. I think it just gets so complicated, but I don't know if you want to share your thoughts on, we want to use more data standards for data quality here.
Yeah, I mean, data standards and data quality, I think, are two different things. And I think that the gentleman was referring to what's the status of applying common data standards across the industry, also involving the OEMs. And well, you said it in your intro, I have a classification background, so Even back in the days, that was a huge topic, and from the classification side, we're trying to push the industry towards more data standardization. Well, you know about the ISO standards that look at, for example, standardization of data tags coming from machinery and so on. But even that is not really widely applied at the moment across the industry. I would say it will take us still many years to reach a standard, or to reach standards with respect to data, so that we can really do plug and play. I think so. If you look at, for example, I mean, there's bridge data. So you have bridge data or data used on the bridge is already more standardized. So you, for example, have NMEA as a standard. So I think here we are already we have progressed quite a lot. But if you go down to the belly of the ship, it gets messy, and I think a lot more needs to be done in order to reach data standards. And we suffer it from ourselves. So that's why I said it's like vessels become projects. It's not just simple plug and play. And we try to make it as easy as possible, but yeah.
Well, we've got another regulatory question here from Garnier in UAE. So he's asking the SEAM Part 3, which starts on January 2023. Does this mean you don't need SEAM Part 1 anymore? I don't know if you're a regulatory expert. Maybe I don't know.
I'm not a regulatory expert, to be really honest. Maybe if the gentleman can approach me directly, and I'll put him in touch with our experts.
Yeah. Oh, sounds great. Due to the background of Wärtsilä Voyage, so there's a lot of very grand companies that the company bought. Do you want to share a few minutes, because people may recognize these companies? I don't know how much you want to mention their names or not today, and may know them and realize who we're talking to here.
Yes, I mean, if you've followed the news, or if you follow the news, you might have recognize that we undergo some internal change. We are, so to say, combining our forces within the company. But as you mentioned, Wärtsilä Voyage. So Voyage comprises products and services that are, let's say, are targeted at everything, or that comprise everything that happens mostly outside of the engine room. So these are navigational bridges, integrated bridge systems, different kinds of sensor systems, automation technology, software as a service elements. And so over the last decade, Wärtsilä has picked companies from the market and put them together into the structure Wärtsilä Voyage. I mean, very familiar names like Transas, Eniram, Guidance Marine, Sem Electronics, our newest acquisition, Portling, to strengthen really our port business and PMIS business. So they became also part of the family. And the idea behind this is that we think that an optimization of the transport chain, so to say, from actually engine room to port makes sense and is possible. So we want to be present in each part of this transport chain, and making it possible to connect all the elements to lift synergies amongst these.
Oh, very good. There's a very long question from Son Wing here. I've managed to read half of it, but he's talking about whether shipping companies should put their emission data into the make it public or not. I haven't read the last part of the question, but I suppose it's down to the individual shipping company. I don't know if you have any view on whether they should be forced to, or how this should work. And I'll read the last part of his question while you're answering that.
I mean, that's a bit of a tricky question. If you ask me personally, I think more transparency is good. And I think even if you put emissions data out, it's very, very hard for competitors to gain a competitive advantage from pure emissions data. So going from emissions to actually operation, so boundary conditions that affect operations is kind of difficult. So I don't think there's a lot of harm in putting the data out there.
Yeah, he's asking about operational efficiency indexing. I don't know if he means the CII by that, because that's on a basis of a theoretical and arbitrary rating that has little relation to the actual CO2 efficiency of the ship in real life. I don't know what he means.
Maybe he's referring to the imperfection of the system, and that's what I think I touched it briefly. Is like I say, no system is perfect. No system is perfect, and you could say, I don't know, if you operate a bulk vessel, bulker. So, and even, I mean, the ratio of laden voyages to ballast and so on, this all affects CII. So the actual CO2 efficiency of the ton of iron ore transported from A to B is not perfectly reflected in the CII rating. There's so many boundary conditions that affect the rating. And that's also the reason why we have all of these discussions around CII, because the system is not perfect. It's an abstraction that helps us to get a glimpse on what the CO2 efficiency of transport is, but it's not a perfect reflection of it. But you need to start somewhere. So the regulations are still they're still molded and I think the regulators are listening to the industry, because the industry has valid points when they say, well, this is not perfect, this doesn't work. So we have huge discussions in the cruise industry that this does not work for us. It's not, you know, we need to change it.
The CII is based on the actual CO2 emitted, and the ton miles. So I guess that's the most important factors, at least. You might have, yeah. I mean, it's different to the EEDI about the ship design. I mean, it's the actual fuel you're using, isn't it? So,
yeah, but I mean, it's like, you know, it's like, yeah, of course you have correction factors and so on, and these are put into the equations in order to make it more fair, so to say. But I mean, yeah, even okay, take a detour, sail a bit slower, and maybe even the overall CO2 emissions are bigger of the actual transport, but your CII gets lower because you trick the system. That's possible. Yeah, of course, but it's.
Yeah. So Son's just another question saying he's an academic researching fuel consumption of container vessels, and he agrees this is a good start to, even if it can be built on
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I often feel with this stuff, we don't actually need complicated models. What you actually need is the right information going to the right person at the right time. And it's more about the coordination part of this could be more valuable. You know, if somebody knows it's okay for a ship to be a couple of days late, or they know that something will cause them a problem, then so that may be a better value from the software than the modeling. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so it sounds great. Well, we're coming to the last 5 minutes, so we can go to the sort of sum up time. I mean, I think this is and you made it look so great. Every ship owner will want this. As you've modeled against the decisions every shipping company wants to make, and the software that tells them the answer. I imagine most shipping companies would be delighted to have something like this that gives them the right answer at the right time. So yeah, it's another comment from Garnier. Thank you very much for this webinar. Very interesting. So yeah, I don't know if you want to give closing remarks, what you'd like to leave people to go home with, and maybe if you'd like people to contact you if they want to. You're ready to take phone calls from our delegates.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carl, and thank you also for the opportunity. And yeah, I think I'd like to walk away from this webinar with the message is like, yeah, things are complicated, obviously, and there's no perfect solution to a problem. But I think if we take the first step and create more transparency, we are already halfway. So, and I think that's everything, or that's the step that everybody can take in the industry by creating a bit more transparency on consumption, on emissions, and use that as basis for decision making. So there is no solution that can basically, like I don't know, there's no AI in the background that says, it's like, oh, this is what you should do in order to have the perfect outcome. So you need to, because there's so many decisions that that are conflicting. So it's just, and these decisions need to be negotiated.
Yeah, this stuff is going to get a lot harder. The amount of data people need is going to go up, I think. So yeah. Yeah, well, that's so great. Well, thank you very much. I think that's very illuminating and a picture of the future. So thank you. And I shall pass back to Farah for the closing words. Cheers.
Thank you to our guest speaker, Kay Dausendschön from Wärtsilä, and to all our viewers. We'll be sending you a YouTube video link soon with Kay's email if you have any further questions. Join us for our next webinar, Understanding Cybersecurity Class Certifications, Navigating the Landscape, which is on the 3rd of November and sponsored by CyberOwl, which you can book online at the Digital Ship webinar website. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Wow.
Thanks, Farah.